care. Clark glided down the halls of the watchtower, heading for Batman's room. He was either going to be there or he had gone back to Earth to the Batcave. Clark wasn't 100% sure where Batman's room was. He didn't like people visiting him, so Clark wasn't familiar where it was. Searching along the gray walls of the tower, he finally found Bruce's door to his room, of course with the bat symbol he put on everything. Clark opened the automatic door, placing his feet on the ground and stepping in. Bruce wasn't inside. Clark was about to turn around and head to the Batcave when something caught his eye. On Bruce's work desk, there were countless sheets of paper and mechanics, but he also had picture frames sitting on the desk. One had a picture of his parents, the other had a picture of him and the Bat family, the ones that were still alive, but the last was a picture of Clark and him. Well, Bruce and Clark were work partners and were friends, sure, having a picture of Superman on his work desk though. The fact that it was just him and Bruce, not even the whole league. Maybe Bruce and Clark were better friends than Clark had thought. He brushed away these thoughts and turned to the door, once again building through the hallway, heading to the main section of the watchtower to teleport to the Batcave. Arriving in the main section, Clark flew up to the teleporter. Standing on the pad, he told the computer to go to the Batcave. In a swirl of blue light and a flash, Superman was standing in the teleporter pad in the Batcave. Who goes there? Alfred came charging to Clark, firing a warning shot before he realizing Clark. Mr. Kent, so very sorry. He put the gun down by his side and pulled out a hand to Clark, helping him off the pad. It's okay, may I speak to Batman? He's just upstairs, wait a moment as I get him. Thank you. Clark stayed where he was as Alfred turned and walked up the stairs to the Get Bruce. Minutes later, the caped Crusader came pacing down the stairs into the Batcave. As he came in front of Clark to talk, he cloaked his cape, concealing his body. What is it, Clark? He frowned, staring at Clark. I just wanted to see if you were okay. I get stabbed or shot almost once every 2 months, I think I'd be fine after a petty argument. John told me to talk to you, so Clark stopped mid-sentence, realizing it was pointless to even come here. Even if Batman did want help, he'd never ask for it or talk about it. I'm sorry, I'll go. Clark turned and hovered over to the teleporter in the cave. Just when he was about to place his feet on the pad, he jolted as a force tugged on his cape. How about we talk, over dinner, like last night, but just you and me? Bruce looked extremely tense at saying this, as if it was a weight on his shoulders. Sure, when and where? Clark pulled his cape out of Bruce's hands and turned to face him. How's Patterson's Sound at 5 p.m? Okay, see you then. Clark waved a goodbye before teleporting out of the Batcave. Bruce turned away, flipping his cane behind him and striding up the stairs to the mansion. I care about Clark more than any of you. The constant phrase waving in the oceans of Bruce's head. It was true though, but now he was questioning. Just how much did he care about Clark? Crush. I've already fallen in love with a cat burglar, don't tell me I've fallen in love with an alien. He muttered under his breath. Bruce punched the punching bag in his training room, grinding his teeth together at the fact of his stupid heart. He's a friend, not a boyfriend. Taking another hit at the punching bag, making it jangle at the chains hanging it up, Bruce stood in silence for a few moments, wiping the sweat off his forehead. Maybe I just need a break, he thought as he sat down on a bench, taking a large gulp of water. After sitting there for a few moments, heaving himself up off the bench, he dragged himself to the door and made his way to his bedroom. Being a billionaire, of course his bedroom was large and spacious, complete with an equally large ensuite and king-sized bed. Plunking himself on the bed, he wiped his body with a towel. He had about an hour and a half until his date. No, not a date, he didn't love Clark, it was just a friendly get-together. After he had wiped his body with a towel, he went into the ensuite, undressing and stepping into the shower. Washing his body and using strawberry shampoo. Yes, he uses strawberry shampoo, it makes him smell nice. Rubbing it through his hair and rinsing it out. Stepping out of the shower, putting a towel around his waist and staring in the mirror. He took a moment to take in his body, stitches and dents each reminding him of his fights. Even if you love Clark, he would never love someone like you. The thought crossed Bruce's mind only for him to brush it off and pick up his razor, and shaving away his slight beard, only leaving short stubble. Back in his room again, picking out a suit that wasn't too fancy. Patterson's is just a small restaurant and Bruce didn't want to be overdressed. Putting his utility belt on underneath his clothing and putting his coat on as he wandered downstairs. Looking suave Master Bruce. Alfred came to meet him at the bottom of the stairs. Thanks, Alfred. Shall I escort you there? Bruce opened his mouth to reply when Dick came rushing down the stairs. Is Bruce going on a date? Oh, with who? Dick leant in close to Alf. It's not a date. Bruce was cut off. Superman, Master Dick. It's not a date. Bruce folded his arms and glared at Alfred. Superman? Man, you've got the worst taste in people, Bruce. Like Catwoman, Talia, and Wonder Woman at one point. And don't get me started on Dick. Chuckled to himself and Alfred just grinned. It's not a date, we need to discuss how many children you're gonna have. Make sure he doesn't drug you, we don't want another Damien. Expect half alien. Dick, don't you have training to do? Bruce clenched his fist and gave an extra scary bat glare at Dick. Okay, fine. Dick huffed and made his way to the training room, singing Batman and Superman, sitting in a tree. Let's go. Bruce stormed off to the garage with the limousine. Muttering to himself. I understand this is not a date, Master Bruce. Alfred spoke over to Bruce in the back seat of the limousine. But I can tell you. If you say I have a crush on him, I'll jump out this window. Bruce moved his head to face the window, looking out the one-sided mirror. I'm just saying, if you love anyone you should tell them before it's too late. But I don't love him. Bruce's knuckles went white, he clenched them so tightly. I didn't mean Clark, Master Bruce. I meant this towards anyone you love. I don't love anyone. What about Dick, Jason, Tim, Barbara, Damien? You're Perrin. I meant romantically, Alfred. He raised his voice slightly. We're here, Master Bruce. Sure enough, Clark was waiting outside Patterson's, wearing his normal white polo shirt and jeans. His eyes lit up when he saw the limousine pull up. I wonder how long he was waiting there. We must be late, sir. It's hard to be early when there's a guy with super speed and can fly. Bruce stepped out of the door held by Alfred, and walked over to Clark, shaking hands with him. Clark gestured inside the restaurant and the two of them walked inside. Doesn't love him, my ass. Alfred smirked, walking back to the limousine. Job for Superman. Will that be all? The waitress asked with her notepad in hand. Yes, thank you. Clark closed his menu and grabbed Bruce's, handing it to the waitress. She walked back to the counter and into the kitchen. Clark, do you even need to eat? Bruce tilted his head curiously. Well, not necessarily. My body has a need for food, but I don't get hungry. I mean, the sun is all I need really, but honestly I don't know. I just eat pretzels because they taste nice. Interesting. I mean, I don't know much about my body at all really. Like tomorrow I'll wake up and I can suddenly teleport. Kryptonian bodies make no sense, man. Sometimes neither do human bodies. He chuckled. Funny, I've never heard you laugh. I didn't think. You've never heard Batman laugh. Bruce is a different person. Bruce went back to his usual frown. That's more like it. Did you just bowl of chips to share? A different waitress was standing over the two men, holding a large bowl of chips they had bought to share. Yes, that would be us. Bruce looked up at the woman with his dense blue eyes. Hey? You're Bruce Wayne, the billionaire guy. The woman almost dropped the chips. She put them on the table and then continued to fangirl excitedly. Yes, that would be me. Bruce put on his playboy smile at the
sponsor message, then we're back.
Some patients are told they've run out of options, that they'll never move the same way again, that their condition is untreatable. At the Institute for Advanced Reconstruction, we challenge that. Our specialists are at the forefront of nerve and reconstructive care, delivering innovative treatments that transform lives. For those ready to turn the page on limitations and start a new chapter, we're here to help. See what's possible at advancedreconstruction.com.
Waitress making her blush. And who might this be? Her brow lowered a bit as she gestured to Clark. That would be my close friend Mr. Kent. Bruce leant into the waitress and slipped in her pocket $100. Mr. Wayne, I can't. He put his lips to her ear and whispered, that's just for you, Tiger. The waitress almost fainted at this. Instead she stood there shaking. As she fumbled for words. Do be so kind and give Mr. Kent and I some privacy. Bruce turned back to Clark, waiting for her to leave. Once she was out of hearing range, she picked up a chip and continued talking with Clark again while eating. When Bruce was flirting with the waitress, or whatever that was, Clark felt uncomfortable, as if Bruce was in danger. Clark had always felt the need to protect Bruce even when Bruce didn't want help. Bruce was just so fragile, and Clark has this drive to save him, to guard him. Imagine if we were in costume, that'd be hilarious. Batman and Superman sharing chips. Clark brushed away his feelings, pulling his attention back to Bruce. I bet it would be all over the news and the League would never let us live it down. A waiter placed down Clark and Bruce's drinks in front of them along with bendy straws. Thank you, sir. Bruce did his playboy grin again. Once again the waiter was completely taken by this. As the waiter walked away from the table, he had some sort of skip in his step. And Clark found himself with the same feeling in his stomach, that feeling of a need to protect. Then, like that, it all came making Clark in the face. He was jealous. He had fallen in love with Bruce. How? Why? No wonder he hated it when Bruce flirted with other people. He was jealous. CLRK suppressed these thoughts and tried to strike up a conversation with Bruce. How do you do that? Clark took a sip of his drink. What? Bruce tilted his head up to face Clark. Manage to completely sweep anyone off their feet, man, woman, or anything in between? Oh, it's quite easy. It does help that I'm a billionaire and happen to be ravishingly handsome. Bruce flicked his hair. Clark almost forgot he was taking to Bruce, as in Batman. But how does anyone fall for that? Clark continued to drink. You seem to have fallen for it. Bruce smirked and Clark almost choked on his drink. Wait. What? Are you saying? Before Clark could finish, a loud bang and crash was heard outside, followed by a number of car horns and then screams, making Clark's super hearing painful. The two men looked outside of the restaurant window to see a tall silver robot basically destroying the street. Looks like a job for Superman. Bruce stood up from the table. Clark sighed and stood up from the table, heading for the door and walking outside, trying to find an alleyway where he could change. Bruce then played along with the staff and other guests in the restaurant, pretending to be panicked and taking cover under the table. He sat under the table fiddling with his tie. Soon outside the chaos quietened down and Bruce heard a couple of gasps outside and cries of joy shouting Superman. Bruce assumed Clark had made it. A couple of people in the restaurant looked over their tables to watch the action outside. Bruce joined in to monitor if Clark needed help. Bruce was in Metropolis and he hated it when Clark would help him in Gotham. He would only step in if needed. Bruce peered over the table to watch the fight. Clark was hovering above the ground trying to talk it out with the robot. Bruce had seen it before, Metallo. Bruce knew Metallo's secret weapon against Clark. Clark needed him. Bruce stood up and casually slipped out the door, everyone paying attention to Superman. He walked out onto the street. With a closer look at Clark, he could see he was in pain. Metallo has a freaking kryptonite heart. Clark's was a fair distance away. Bruce found a public toilet next to the restaurant. He would have gone in Patterson's bathrooms, but it was easier to get caught. To Bruce's relief, the bathrooms were empty. He slipped in and lifted up his shirt, reaching for his utility belt. Outside, Bruce heard a sudden smash and a cry of pain. Clark's cry of pain. This was a job for Batman.